Today I have author Mr. Robert Clark here with me to talk a little bit about writing a novel and about the publication process. So it's nice to have you, Mr. Robert Clark.
Thank you.
Mr. Clark, how old are you?
56.
And so how and when did you first get interested in writing stories?
I started writing back in 2007. It came out, we had a time capsule opening here at the town in the year 2000. And that's when they unearthed the tercentenary, whichever one. When they buried in 1967, they unearthed. And I went to it and I'm watching it and they're going, what if they open this crazy thing and it's empty? And that's the first time I really thought about putting a plot together. It stuck with me for a while. In 2006, I said, you know what, I'm tired of just, watching TV at night and that kind of stuff. I said, I'm going to write this novel. And I started writing it in early 2007, and it took most of the summer there to get it written. And it was much bigger than it should have. I think it was 96,000 words. I tried to cut it down. I tried to get an agent for it, but I couldn't. But I had the fever then. And I started writing. I wrote another one called Center Point, which has actually been published. And from then on, I've pretty much written a book every 9 or 10 months since. But it was that first one, there's some spark that you have to have, and that was mine. And I kept with it. Actually, I used part of that book into another book. I took the empty time capsule plot thread is going to be in another book coming out, so I didn't lose that.
So when you write, what is the first thing that you usually think of in terms of the story?
I try to think of the main character and what conflict that main character is going to have. Usually the issue is there has to be a conflict of some kind. Typically, that's not always the case. So I try to find something that is going to happen to this person that has to have a resolution. So something happens, the person is finding she's in danger, or there's something bad happening and have to get out of it. So I try to roll that whole thing into a plot. But I'm not very good. I'm more of a pantser than a plotter. I don't sit there and use the snowflake method or some of those other methods that people have. I pretty much just have small little points as I go along, and I try to reach those milestones and hope it all fills in later. There's a lot of books that are going, I have no idea how this is going to end, but I got a great start, I got a great middle, and we'll just see where the characters take me. That's not always the way to do it. I don't recommend it if you can do it, but I know a lot of other writers, and some of them they say you can't build a house without a foundation. You can't build a house without blueprints. You have to have everything out there, and they have spreadsheets. They have everything going on what the characters are going to do. Some of us just wing it as we go, and you fix it later. So that's my method.
So is there any kind of pre-writing setup you have, like a certain time you like to write or a certain place where you write?
I write on my kitchen table. I sit on a very uncomfortable stool, and I have a laptop, and I have kind of bad lighting from overhead, but that's how I do it. I don't have an office. I don't write there. That's just how I do it. I write late at night, usually 10:30 to 11:30. That's my time, and I can get a lot done at that time. I don't write much anymore. I don't get up early in the morning and try to write. I know some people can do that, but I don't do it. It's a late nighter. I try to get as much as I can. And I'm a steady and slow type of writer. I don't write 1,000 words at a time. I might write 300, 400, but you keep plugging away at that, you're going to end up with a book eventually. So, I know the old saying is, write a page a day and you'll have a novel in a year. Well, my novels aren't so long, so I could do it in half a year.
So about how long on average does it take you to write a novel and finish it?
My 2 adult novels took me about 9 or 10 months to write, but I mostly, if not all, write middle grade now, and it takes me about 6 or 7 months from concept to typing the end. But of course, that's not the end of writing. The editing process, the beta readers. I pretty much have it down to a year now for everything to get going. By the time maybe a little bit less, 10 months. By the time you get it written and edited and out to betas and out to anybody else who wants to read it and give their insight on it. So it's about 10 months for me. But again, I write middle grade novels at about 30,000 to 40,000 words. So mileage may vary. I know some people who could write 1,000 words a day, and they do it. And their books they could write them in 3 months, and then they'll take that book, put it aside for a month, not look at it, start another one, or do something else, and then come back to it. So that's important. After you read it, you don't want to start editing it and sending it out right away. You want to let it simmer for a few weeks if you can.
So do you set any specific deadlines while you're writing?
Most of my books are open-ended, which means I don't have a contract for them. I just start writing them. Most of the deadline stuff comes for me from the editing part. When I wrote The Secret at Haney Field, had some major changes to it. She said, I need this back. And, if you can have this back by the end of the month, that'd be great. I'm looking at it going, wow, we moved portions of it around. There were major changes to it. And I said, okay, that was the first deadline I faced. And it really wasn't pop. She gave me plenty of time to do it, but that was the first deadline I faced, and it came out very well. But otherwise, right now, I don't really have any. It takes such a long time to get them published that when you get them done, you're better to get it right rather than get it quick.
So about how many stories have you written over the years?
I have completed, as in type the end, 11 novels.
And how many of those have been published?
I have published 4 of them. I have another one coming out. Number 5 will be coming out this summer, and number 6 will be coming out in 2017. Okay.
And so what is your experience with publishing? Like, do you have an agent, or do you have, like, other people to help you out, too?
How long do you have? Well, I'll give you the short part of it. I have had 2 agents, and I've lost 2 agents. That's part of the process. Is that some writers get them, some keep them forever. Some people get them and lose them. I had my first middle grade book I finished was called Dizzy Miss Lizzie, which eventually got published. I had an agent for it. He could not sell the book. He became disinterested in my other books because I wasn't making any money. So we just parted ways after about a year. Then I got another book, ended up being called The Secret at Haney Field, but originally it was called Good Golly, Miss Molly. I got another agent for that one. She could not sell it anywhere over the course of 2 years, and then we ended up getting a small publisher for it. It came out. But she became disinterested in selling my books to big publishers. She was only trying to sending them small ones, and I could do that. I can take it to some of these publishers, which I ended up doing later on. So we parted, and I have since tried getting an agent for several other books, and I am in the process of trying to get one now for my latest book. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. They have to find the spark. They have to read this and say, yes, I can represent this, I can sell this, because agents are in the business of making money. So they don't care as much about what kind of a writer you are. They want to sell books and make money because it's a dog-eat-dog publishing world. So the problem is I finally got a publisher for Dizzy Miss Lizzie, Stanley Publishing, very nice place. My book was getting into bookstores. It was selling well, and the publisher went completely AWOL and left all the authors in a lurch, stopped paying royalties, would not take the book off of places like Amazon and BNN, and people could download it and not pay the authors. I ended up having to obtain a lawyer to have that stop, put a cease and desist on it, and end up getting my rights back for the book. That book was eventually republished. Had trouble with that publisher too, and so third time is charmed for Dizzy Miss Lizzie will be out again this summer by another publisher. And same with Centerpoint, that same publisher, the second one, ended up returning my rights, and that will be republished again. Publishing it's a tough business if you have to find them on your own. I did find a publisher for my book coming out in 2017 called The TikTok Man. This was a publisher I knew very little about until I started reading. So this is an outstanding publisher. They took the book and read it and said, we want it part of our list for 2017. It's a middle grade, kind of a crazy mystery. And that's the problem when you finally do get a publisher, then you got to wait. When I got the contract back in November, it was going to be almost 2 years from that day after it's going to be published, but that's part of it. So I can find publishers on my own. I can actually write to big editors at some of the bigger houses and have them read my work. Some of them won't, some of them will. They'll come back and say, yeah, go ahead and send it. So an agent can get you in a lot of places. You can get some there yourself if you really try. But I would prefer having an agent for the books that I have coming out, because they can get into the bigger places quicker. They can help you with foreign rights. They can help you with audio rights. There's lots of other stuff that you can do to get your book what it deserves. So I've had two. I'd like to have a third one, and I hope this one works out for a little bit longer.
So what do you think is your biggest strength in your writing?
I think my biggest strength is that I never write the same book twice. I try to go all over the map. I try to write something different, make a different point every time I write a book. And I think I've done that all the way through. Most of my books are mysteries, but sometimes I have female main characters, sometimes men or boys. Sometimes it's a group of people trying to do something, sometimes it's just somebody going solo. And I think I've done a pretty good job of not getting into a rut, not being categorized. Sometimes that's good, but in my case, I didn't want to be categorized as somebody who just wrote a certain type of mystery or one type of book.
So, like, what do you believe is your greatest weakness in your writing?
Well, one that has followed me all the way through my writing process is I leave out words all the time. And it just kills me when I get right near the end, I get almost the final version of it, and my wife's looking there going, you left off an OF here, you left off the here, you left. So there'd be 30, 40 of them in a manuscript, and I have read this thing 20,000 times. I mean, when you go in the edit process, you read your own work, but your brain fills it in and says, well, that word's there. You don't have to worry about it. It's really there, but it's not. You got to find them. That's why you have to read it one word, one sentence at a time. Try to read it slowly. Make sure that all the words are there where they should be. But that's my biggest weakness as a writer, at least in the process. I tend to think all my books are great, but they do not to be.
So, do you have any advice for any upcoming writers?
The best advice I've ever seen, or I've ever been given, I've ever seen in print, is control the things you can control, and that is the writing process. Only you can put the words in, only you can make the characters come to life, only you can put the chapter headers in, do everything it takes to get the book done. That's what you control. If you focus more on that, the writing process will be a little more enjoyable because it can really get to you after a while. It can be a grind. There's a lot of stuff to do with agents and publishing, but know what you can control. You can write. That's the only thing. Nobody can take that away from you. If you can sit down at your word processor and bang out the words, make the characters come to life, put the end in there when it's necessary, and then rinse and repeat. That's what you can do. There's a lot of other things that will drive you absolutely bonkers when you try to get way into this process of publishing. But always know that something they can't take away from you. They can't take the voices in your head. And let's face it, that's what writing is. It's answering the voices in your head. They're there all the time. They're asking you questions. They're telling you what to say. Sounds like you need a rubber room, but that's close. But you need to control those voices. Write the words that need to be written, and that's what you can control. And that's the biggest advice you have. Some of the other things, I don't know what the path is going to be for any particular writer. Some have it fairly smooth, but when you get into the publishing business, it is a business to make money, and writers a lot of times are just more concerned about the story, and that's fine. And the writers are always the last one to know information when it comes out, and usually the first ones that get whacked when something bad happens. So write what you can, write when you can, and control all that. That's my major advice.
So would you like to show off some of the books that you brought and just give a descriptive thing about them?
Sure. Got them right here. Okay. This is the first book that came out, told the tale before. It's actually one of my favorite books to write. Actually takes place locally. It takes place in Fall River in the late 1890s. It's kind of a flashback, and always be my darling. I do have the rights back to it. It will be coming out again with a third cover sometime maybe April or so of this year. So, love that book. The only adult book I wrote, called Center Point, adult being adult characters. So the guy is 25 years old, and it takes place in a small New England town, not unlike Swansea, Massachusetts. And really liked writing it, but I found my voice is more suited for middle grade, so I'm pretty much sticking with that. I do have a sequel for this in my head somewhere, and I may have to see if I can harness that and get it out there, but it will take a lot of time. This is the biggest book I've ever written, about 80,000 words, so I can tell it's a little bit more than my other ones, but really like this one. This one will also be coming out again for the second time. It will be coming out in April with Lizzie, with the new publisher. This book was a baseball book. It's a story about a girl who is she's a bat girl for a minor league team, and she ends up solving a mystery at a local stadium. Not unlike Pawtucket, the AAA or a single A, but it's a single A team. I really, really liked this one. It was one of my favorite characters. And the editor for this was, I don't know if you ever heard of Emma Walton Hamilton. She and her mother, Julie Andrews, have written a lot of books before. She came in and edited the heck out of this. We really did a good job, made a much better book, and we sold it to MB Publishing. And this one's been out for about a year, and great reviews. People like it, and one of my favorites. And then this one just came out called The Right Hand Rule. It takes place on a Saturday where four middle school students who just won their science fair get together on a Saturday. They find out they have to use the knowledge from their science fair projects to solve a mystery. So this one just came out. It's been out for a couple of months. I'm going to have a book signing for it very soon at this very library as soon as I get some books in. And the same publisher is going to republish the other ones, and I have a new book coming out later this summer called Running on Empty, which is a follow-on to Dizzy Miss Lizzy. And I have a book called The TikTok Man coming out in 2017. And I just finished another one that I'm trying to find an agent for. So that was novel number 11.
So thank you for your time, Mr. Clark.
Glad I could be of some help.